So I get the question a lot, how did you get started doing this, like doing storytelling? And really, like most things, it was an evolution versus a specific start date, you know? An evolution that mostly blends together, but with a handful of very specific moments of clarity. Clarity in the power of a story and the reason to always be telling them. And one of those moments was when I was 12 in my family's minivan, traveling 5 hours north on rural Minnesota roads to our very small lake cabin for the weekend. Now, the scene in the minivan always looked the same. My father drove and listened to the Twins or the Vikings game on the radio. My mother read her book and complained about having to read over the sound of the game. I read from my seat, and my younger brother was in the back listening to a Beach Boys cassette tape on his Walkman. It wasn't even a Discman, and my younger sister slept next to him. Now, every drive, for about 5 hours, it was always the same. Each of us keeping quietly to ourselves. But on one particular trip, our relative silence was broken by spontaneous bursts of laughter from my brother. It was annoying at first because little brothers are always annoying. And then it was confusing. Like, what was so funny about Help Me Rhonda? The mystery was quickly solved when I realized he wasn't listening to the Beach Boys, but rather a tape my mother had checked out at the library, a storytelling tape. On it was 10 or so stories told live by different storytellers at the National Storytelling Festival. As an older sister, it was my job to be disinterested in whatever my little brother was doing, but this simply could not be ignored. His laughter was so genuine, we all wanted a piece of it. My mom made my brother remove the cassette tape from his Walkman. My dad reluctantly turned off the game on the radio. We played the tape from beginning to end for the whole van to hear. And though we varied in age and experience and road trip agenda, we were all equally captivated. We laughed until we cried for all of side A and most of side B until we arrived at the cabin. We were the most united I ever remember being. All it took was a few stories. Now again, that was one of a handful of vivid memories from my childhood when I witnessed and experienced the grip a story can have on an individual, the glue it can become for a group. Now I know it's unlikely that you take frequent road trips with your team, and very unlikely that you listen to cassette tapes, but I hope this story is a reminder for you that just as my family came together in a small way in a minivan that day, no matter how varied the people or experience or interests, stories unite teams, connect customers to brands, and close the gaps that divide us all.